I wanted to take this opportunity to say thank you personally for all the wonderful messages of support.
December 10th, 2025, a date that will haunt the royal family forever. Behind the carefully maintained facade, Catherine, Princess of Wales, is facing a medical crisis so severe that Prince William has been seen breaking down in tears. The diagnosis that palace officials have desperately tried to hide has finally been confirmed, and the implications are devastating. The emergency that changed everything. The call came at 4:17 in the morning. Prince William, already awake and pacing the floors of Adelaide Cottage, answered on the first ring. The voice on the other end belonged to Catherine's lead physician, and the words that followed would shatter whatever remained of William's carefully maintained composure. Catherine's condition had deteriorated overnight. The medical team needed to see her immediately. There were complications, serious complications, that required urgent intervention. William was requested to bring her to the London clinic within the hour. Sources present at Adelaide Cottage that morning describe a scene of controlled chaos. William, his face pale and drawn, moved through the house, gathering Catherine's things while trying desperately not to wake their children. George, Charlotte, and Louis were sleeping peacefully, unaware that their mother was facing the fight of her life just down the hallway. Catherine herself was weak but conscious, determined to maintain her dignity even as her body betrayed her. She had been feeling increasingly unwell for weeks, but had insisted on continuing her royal duties, attending engagements, maintaining appearances. Now, as William helped her into the car, she could no longer hide the severity of her condition. The drive to London was silent except for Catherine's labored breathing. William gripped the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white, fighting back tears as he glanced repeatedly at his wife beside him. This was not supposed to happen. Not to Catherine. Not now. Not ever. They arrived at the London clinic through a private entrance, avoiding media and photographers who had no idea what was unfolding. Catherine was immediately taken to a private suite on the hospital's secure floor, the same facility where she had been treated earlier in the year. But this time, the urgency was palpable. Doctors and nurses moved with swift precision, their faces grave. For the next 6 hours, William waited. He paced the private waiting room, made calls he did not want to make, and struggled to hold himself together. Palace officials arrived, their presence a reminder that this was not just a family crisis but a matter of national significance. The future queen was in serious danger. At 11:32 in the morning, Catherine's lead physician emerged from the treatment room. William's legs nearly gave way as he stood to hear the news. The doctor's expression told him everything before a single word was spoken. This was worse than they had feared, much worse. The official diagnosis, confirmed through multiple tests and examinations, revealed that Catherine's condition from earlier in the year had returned with a vengeance. The cancer that doctors had believed was under control had spread aggressively. New tumors had been discovered. The prognosis, while not hopeless, was grave. William collapsed into a chair, his head in his hands, his shoulders shaking with sobs he could no longer contain. For years, he had maintained an image of strength and stability. He had been the rock his family and nation could depend on. But in that moment, confronted with the possibility of losing Catherine, he broke completely. Palace officials present describe watching the future king weeping openly, unable to process the nightmare his life had become. This was the woman he had loved since they were teenagers at university, the mother of his 3 children, his partner in everything, and now she was fighting for her survival. The medical team explained the treatment options, none of them ideal. Catherine would need aggressive chemotherapy, far more intensive than what she had received previously. She would need radiation therapy. She would likely need surgery, complex and risky procedures that would require months of recovery. And even with all of this, there were no guarantees. William struggled to focus on the medical details, his mind racing with questions that had no good answers. How would they tell the children? How would they manage Catherine's care while maintaining their royal duties? How would they survive if the treatments did not work? Catherine, despite her weakened state, insisted on being part of these discussions. She refused to be treated as a passive patient, demanding to understand every aspect of her condition and the proposed treatments. Even facing the worst crisis of her life, she maintained the strength and determination that had defined her decade as a senior royal. But behind closed doors, away from doctors and officials, Catherine allowed herself to be vulnerable. She cried in William's arms, expressing fears she could not voice publicly. She worried about her children growing up without their mother. She worried about William being forced to navigate royal life alone. She worried about dying before she could see George, Charlotte, and Louis grow into the people she knew they could become. The decision was made to keep Catherine at the London clinic for the immediate future. She needed round-the-clock medical supervision, and the facility offered both world-class care and the privacy the situation required. William refused to leave her side, sleeping in a chair beside her bed, holding her hand through the long, terrifying nights. Palace officials scrambled to manage the situation publicly. Catherine's upcoming engagements were quietly cancelled, attributed to a minor illness, but insiders knew the truth could not be hidden forever. Too many people were involved. Too many staff members had seen William's devastation. The news would leak, and when it did, the palace needed to be prepared. On December 9, 2025, just yesterday, Catherine had been scheduled to attend a Christmas carol service at Westminster Abbey. It was an event she had organized herself, one she deeply cared about. But she was too weak to attend. William made a brief appearance, his face a mask of barely contained emotion, offering vague explanations about Catherine feeling unwell. But those who looked closely could see the truth written in William's red-rimmed eyes and tense posture. This was not a minor illness or a scheduling conflict. This was something catastrophic. And as news began to leak from the hospital, as whispers spread through palace corridors, the horrible reality became impossible to deny. Catherine, Princess of Wales, mother of 3, future queen, and one of the most beloved members of the royal family, was facing a medical crisis that threatened not just her health but her life. The treatments ahead would be grueling, painful, and uncertain in their outcome, and William, thrust into the role of caregiver while managing his own grief and terror, was breaking under the weight of it all. The truth behind closed doors. To understand how this crisis developed, we must look back at the beginning of 2025. In January, Catherine underwent what was described as planned abdominal surgery. The palace insisted it was not cancer-related, that the surgery was successful, and that Catherine would make a full recovery. But palace insiders now reveal that this official narrative was carefully constructed to hide a more complex truth. The surgery had indeed discovered abnormalities. Tissue samples had been taken for analysis. And when those results came back, they revealed the presence of cancer cells. Catherine was devastated by the diagnosis. At 42 years old, with 3 young children and a lifetime of royal service ahead of her, cancer was not something she had ever seriously considered. She was healthy, active, careful about her diet and exercise. How could this be happening? The type of cancer Catherine was diagnosed with has not been publicly disclosed, and palace officials have fiercely guarded this information. But sources familiar with her treatment suggest it is an aggressive form that requires intensive intervention. The fact that it has returned and spread despite initial treatment is deeply troubling to her medical team. William's reaction to the initial diagnosis earlier this year was one of determined optimism. He threw himself into research, consulting with the world's leading oncologists, demanding second and third opinions. He was convinced that if they caught it early enough, if they pursued the most advanced treatments available, Catherine would beat this. For months, that optimism seemed justified. Catherine underwent chemotherapy, lost her hair, suffered through the brutal side effects, but maintained her spirits. She recorded a video message in March announcing her diagnosis, showing characteristic strength and grace. She told the nation she would fight this disease and emerge stronger. William stood by her through every treatment session, every bad day, every moment of doubt. He rearranged his schedule to be present for her appointments. He took on more responsibilities with the children, helping with homework, attending school events, trying to maintain normalcy in their lives while their mother battled cancer. By summer, there were encouraging signs. Catherine's scans showed the tumors shrinking. Her energy was returning. She made carefully managed public appearances, looking thin and fragile but smiling, waving, showing the world she was recovering. The narrative of Catherine's triumphant recovery was taking shape, but behind the scenes, her medical team remained cautious. Cancer is unpredictable, particularly aggressive forms. The fact that the tumors were responding to treatment was positive, but not definitive. They wanted Catherine to continue monitoring, to be vigilant about any changes, to understand that the battle was not yet won. Catherine, eager to return to normal life, may have dismissed these warnings. She wanted to believe she was healed, that the nightmare was over. She resumed more of her duties, pushed herself harder, ignored signs that her body was not as recovered as she hoped. The first indication that something was wrong came in late October. Catherine experienced severe abdominal pain during a private engagement. She pushed through it, completing her duties before returning home and collapsing. William insisted she see her doctors immediately, but Catherine resisted, insisting it was just residual effects from her previous treatments. By early November, the symptoms could no longer be ignored. Catherine was experiencing constant pain, fatigue that no amount of rest could relieve, and worrying physical symptoms she could not hide from William. She finally agreed to comprehensive testing, fearing what the results might show but knowing she could not avoid the truth any longer. The scans performed in mid-November revealed what everyone had feared. The cancer had returned, not just in the original location, but in multiple sites throughout her body. It had metastasized, spreading with a speed and aggression that shocked even her experienced oncologists. William was with Catherine when she received these results. Sources describe him going completely still, his face draining of color. He asked the doctors to repeat what they had just said, as if hearing it again might change the reality. Catherine reached for his hand, squeezing it tightly, trying to be strong for him even as her own world collapsed. The treatment plan developed in the following weeks was aggressive and comprehensive. Catherine would need immediate chemotherapy, different drugs than before, more powerful and with more severe side effects. She would need radiation to specific tumor sites, and depending on how the cancer responded, she might need multiple surgeries to remove affected tissue. The prognosis was carefully worded but clear to anyone who understood medical terminology. Catherine's survival would depend on how well she responded to these treatments. If the cancer could be brought under control, she might have years. If it continued to spread despite intervention, the timeline became much more uncertain. William insisted on understanding every detail. He demanded explanations in plain language, not medical jargon. He wanted to know success rates, survival statistics, what the absolute worst-case scenario looked like. The doctors, sympathetic but honest, provided the information he requested, knowing it would be painful to hear. The decision about how much to tell the children was agonizing. George, at 11 years old, was old enough to understand that his mother was seriously ill. But how much detail should he be given? Charlotte, at 9, was perceptive and would know if they were hiding things. And Louis, at 6, needed reassurance more than information. William and Catherine spent hours discussing how to handle this conversation. They wanted to be honest without terrifying their children. They wanted to prepare them for difficult times ahead without destroying their sense of security. It was an impossible balance, and both knew that whatever they said would not be enough. The conversation happened on a quiet evening at Adelaide Cottage in late November. Catherine, wearing a scarf to cover her hair loss from previous treatments, sat with her 3 children and explained that the sickness had come back. She would need more medicine, more treatments, and there would be times when she did not feel well. But she was fighting, and she had the best doctors, and they would get through this together. George cried silently, trying to be brave like his father. Charlotte wrapped her arms around Catherine and refused to let go. Louis, not fully understanding but sensing his family's distress, asked if Mummy would still be there for Christmas. Catherine promised she would, though she and William both knew it was a promise that might be impossible to keep. William's desperate struggle. Prince William has always prided himself on his ability to handle pressure. As the future king, he has been trained since birth to maintain composure in crisis, to put duty before emotion, to be the steady presence others can rely on. But watching Catherine suffer has broken through every defense he has carefully constructed. Friends describe William as barely holding together. He maintains a brave face for the children, for the public, for his royal duties. But in private moments, the mask slips. He has been seen weeping in the corridors of Adelaide Cottage. Staff have heard him on phone calls with Catherine's doctors, his voice breaking as he begs them to do more, to try anything, to save his wife. The strain is visible in William's appearance. He has lost weight, his face gaunt and lined with stress that ages him beyond his 42 years. He moves through his days with mechanical efficiency, fulfilling obligations while his mind is elsewhere, always with Catherine, always calculating how many hours until he can be back at her side. Sleep has become almost impossible. William lies awake at night, listening to Catherine's breathing, terrified that any change in rhythm might signal a crisis. When he does sleep, nightmares wake him. Visions of life without Catherine that leave him gasping and reaching for her in the darkness. The relationship between William and his father, King Charles, has become more complicated during this crisis. Charles is dealing with his own separation from Camilla, his own struggles with the weight of the crown. He wants to support his son, but is emotionally limited in what he can provide. There have been tense conversations between father and son. William has accused Charles of not understanding the severity of Catherine's condition, of being too focused on his own problems, to recognize that his daughter-in-law might be dying. Charles, hurt and defensive, has tried to explain that he is doing his best while managing impossible circumstances. The late Queen Elizabeth would have known how to navigate this crisis. She would have provided the steady, reassuring presence that both Charles and William need. But she is gone, and the family is discovering just how much they depended on her wisdom and stability. Prince Harry, watching from California, has reportedly reached out multiple times. Despite the estrangement between the brothers, Harry is devastated by news of Catherine's condition. He has offered to return to the UK to support William however he can. But William has not responded to these overtures, too overwhelmed to navigate the complicated emotions involved in reconciling with his brother while his wife fights for her life. The practical demands on William are overwhelming. He must continue with his royal duties or risk questions about what is happening. He must care for 3 children who are struggling with fear and confusion. He must manage Catherine's medical care, making decisions about treatments and procedures. And he must do all of this while barely holding himself together emotionally. Catherine's family, the Middletons, have become William's lifeline. Carol and Michael Middleton have moved into Adelaide Cottage to help with the children, providing stability and normalcy when William cannot. Pippa and James Middleton visit regularly, offering support and taking on practical tasks that William cannot manage. The Middleton family's presence has been both comfort and reminder of what is at stake. They are Catherine's family, and their grief mirrors William's own. Carol, in particular, has been seen with red, swollen eyes, trying to be strong for her grandchildren while her daughter faces the possibility of death. William's public appearances have become exercises in controlled performance. He smiles for cameras, shakes hands, makes appropriate small talk. But those who know him can see the exhaustion, the barely suppressed panic, the sense that he is one wrong question away from complete breakdown. On December 8th, just 2 days ago, William attended a charity event for homelessness, a cause close to both his and Catherine's hearts. He gave a speech about the importance of compassion and support for those facing crisis. His voice cracked multiple times. Observers described him as visibly struggling to maintain composure. After the event, William was seen sitting alone in his car for over 5 minutes, his head resting on the steering wheel. Security kept their distance, recognizing that the future king needed a moment to fall apart before pulling himself together for the next obligation. The pressure on William to be strong for everyone else has become crushing. He must be strong for Catherine, who needs his support and optimism. He must be strong for his children, who look to him for reassurance that everything will be okay. He must be strong for the nation, which expects their future king to project stability and confidence. But William is not strong. He is terrified, exhausted, and barely functioning. He is a man watching his wife suffer, powerless to stop it, forced to maintain a facade of control while his world crumbles around him. There have been moments when William has questioned everything. Why did this happen to Catherine? What did they do to deserve this? How is he supposed to be king if he cannot even protect his own family? These questions have no answers, but they torment him in the quiet hours when he sits beside Catherine's hospital bed. Catherine, even in her weakened state, tries to comfort William. She tells him this is not his fault. She reminds him that they have faced challenges before and survived. She insists that he needs to take care of himself, to rest, to not let this destroy him. But her words, though meant kindly, cannot penetrate the wall of fear and grief surrounding him. William has confided in very few people about the depth of his despair. His most honest conversations have been with Mike Tyndall, married to William's cousin Zara. Mike, himself a father and husband, understands the terror of potentially losing a spouse. He has told William that it is okay to not be okay, that pretending to be strong when you are falling apart only makes things worse. But William struggles to accept this permission to be vulnerable. He has been raised to believe that royals do not show weakness, that personal suffering must be subordinated to public duty. The idea of openly acknowledging his pain feels like failure, even though intellectually he knows it is human. The coming weeks will test William in ways he has never been tested before. Catherine's treatments will be brutal. There will be setbacks, complications, moments of crisis that require him to make impossible decisions. He will have to balance his role as husband and caregiver with his responsibilities as Prince of Wales and father. And through it all, he will have to live with the terrible knowledge that despite every advantage of wealth, position, and access to the best medical care in the world, he might still lose Catherine. No amount of royal privilege can guarantee her survival, and that helplessness, more than anything else, is what has reduced the future king to tears. The children's heartbreak. Prince George, at 11 years old, is old enough to understand that his mother is gravely ill but too young to fully process what that means. He has been thrust into a nightmare that no child should experience, watching his vibrant, loving mother transformed by illness and treatment into someone fragile and frightening. George has always been close to Catherine. As the eldest child and future king, he shares with his mother the burden of royal destiny. Catherine has worked hard to give George as normal a childhood as possible, while preparing him for the role he will one day assume. Their bond is deep and unshakable, which makes his current pain all the more acute. Sources close to the family describe George as trying desperately to be brave. He has watched his father struggle and has taken on a protective role with his younger siblings. He helps Charlotte with homework, plays with Louis, tries to maintain routines when everything feels chaotic. But at night, staff have heard him crying in his room, quiet sobs he tries to muffle so no one will hear. George has started asking questions that William struggles to answer honestly. Will Mummy die? What happens if the medicine does not work? Will we be okay without her? William tries to provide reassurance while being truthful, but the line between comforting and lying feels impossibly thin. The young prince has also started researching cancer on his own, using the internet to try to understand his mother's condition. William and Catherine discovered this and were torn between wanting to protect him from frightening information and recognizing his need to understand. They have tried to guide his research, providing age-appropriate explanations while acknowledging the seriousness of the situation. Princess Charlotte, at 9 years old, has reacted differently to her mother's crisis. Where George tries to be strong, Charlotte has become clingy and emotional. She refuses to be separated from Catherine for any length of time, insisting on sleeping in her parents' room, accompanying her to medical appointments when allowed. Charlotte's teachers at Lambrook School have noticed significant changes in her behavior. She is withdrawn in class, no longer participating with her usual enthusiasm. She cries easily, triggered by seemingly small things. She has told classmates that her mummy is very sick, seeking comfort and understanding from friends who cannot fully grasp what she is experiencing. Catherine has tried to maintain special moments with Charlotte despite her illness. They have tea parties in Catherine's hospital room, decorated with drawings Charlotte brings from home. They watch favorite films together. Catherine reads to Charlotte at night, her voice sometimes fading with exhaustion but determined to provide these moments of normalcy. But Charlotte is perceptive enough to see past these attempts at normalcy. She notices how tired Catherine is, how much pain she is in even when trying to hide it. She has asked her mother directly if she is going to die, a question that broke Catherine's heart and left her struggling to find words that were both honest and reassuring. Prince Louis, at 6 years old, is perhaps in some ways the most heartbreaking of the three. He is too young to fully understand cancer, too young to grasp the possibility that his mother might not survive, but he senses the fear and sadness permeating his home, and it confuses and frightens him. Louis has become anxious and prone to tantrums, acting out in ways that are unlike his normally cheerful personality. He has nightmares about monsters taking his mother away. He asks repeatedly when Catherine will be completely better, not understanding why the answer keeps changing. The youngest Wales child clings to small rituals and routines, as if maintaining these normal patterns can keep the scary things at bay. He insists on Catherine tucking him in at night, even when she is too weak to climb the stairs. On those nights, William carries Catherine to Louis's room so she can kiss him goodnight, a gesture that leaves both parents in tears after Louis falls asleep. The impact of this crisis on the three Wales children cannot be overstated. They are growing up faster than they should, confronting mortality and loss at ages when they should be carefree. The trauma of watching their mother suffer will shape them for the rest of their lives, influencing who they become and how they approach their own royal roles. William and Catherine are acutely aware of this. They have arranged for all three children to speak with child psychologists who specialize in helping young people cope with parental illness. These sessions provide a safe space for George, Charlotte, and Louis to express fears and ask questions they might not feel comfortable sharing with their parents. The children have also found comfort in spending time with their Middleton grandparents. Carol Middleton in particular has become a source of stability, providing the kind of unconditional love and normalcy that the children desperately need. She bakes with them, takes them on walks, listens to their worries without judgment. But even the Middletons cannot shield the children from the reality of their situation. There are too many hospital visits, too many hushed conversations between adults, too many moments when Catherine is too sick to join family activities. The children are living through a crisis that will mark them permanently. Friends of the family worry about the long-term effects on the Wales children. George is at a crucial stage of development, beginning to understand his future role while dealing with potential loss. Charlotte is forming her sense of self and learning what it means to be strong in adversity. Louis is having his basic sense of security shaken at an age when stability is crucial. There have been discussions about whether the children should continue attending school or be kept at home during this crisis. William and Catherine have decided that maintaining normal routines is important, that school provides structure and distraction, but both worry constantly that they are making the wrong choice, that the children need more family time during these uncertain days. The other children at Lambrook School have been generally kind and supportive, a testament to both the school's culture and the basic decency of young people. But there have also been awkward moments, questions that George, Charlotte, and Louis do not know how to answer, curiosity that feels invasive even when well-intentioned. A nation holds its breath. As news of Catherine's medical crisis spreads beyond palace walls, the British public is confronting the reality that their future queen might not survive to wear the crown. The outpouring of emotion has been immediate and overwhelming, revealing just how deeply Catherine has connected with people across the nation and around the world. Social media erupted within hours of the first reports about Catherine's deteriorating condition. Hashtags supporting the Princess of Wales trended globally. Messages of hope, prayer, and love flooded in from every corner of the world. People who had never met Catherine spoke of feeling personally devastated by news of her illness. This reaction speaks to something Catherine has accomplished during her years as a senior royal. She has made herself relatable without diminishing her royal status. She has shown vulnerability while maintaining dignity. She has been a modern princess who shops at normal stores and deals with the same parenting challenges as millions of other mothers, while also fulfilling her duties with grace and commitment. The fact that Catherine is facing cancer, a disease that affects 1 in 2 people at some point in their lives, has made her struggle even more resonant. She is not suffering from some rare, exotic condition, but from something terrifyingly common. This has created a sense of shared experience, a feeling that Catherine's battle is representative of struggles happening in households across the country. Outside the London clinic where Catherine is receiving treatment, people have begun leaving flowers, cards, and messages of support. Security has had to manage the growing crowds, touched by the sentiment but concerned about disruption. The fence surrounding the hospital entrance is now covered with colorful tributes, a visual representation of how many people are thinking of Catherine. Religious communities across Britain have organized special services and prayer vigils for Catherine's recovery. Churches, mosques, synagogues, and temples have all seen increased attendance from people seeking spiritual comfort and a way to actively support the Princess of Wales. Even non-religious Britons speak of sending positive thoughts, demonstrating that concern for Catherine transcends traditional boundaries. The media coverage has been intense, but generally respectful. Most outlets have avoided the sensationalism that characterized coverage of Diana's struggles, recognizing that this situation is too serious for tabloid games. There is genuine sympathy for William and the children, a shared hope that Catherine will beat this disease, but there has also been speculation about what Catherine's illness means for the monarchy's future. If she does not survive, or if she survives but is permanently limited in her abilities, how does that affect William's capacity to fulfill his role? Can he be the king Britain needs while raising 3 children alone? These questions are being asked carefully, with sensitivity to the human tragedy unfolding, but they are being asked. Royal commentators have noted that Catherine's absence from public life has left a noticeable void. She brought a particular energy and connection to royal engagements that is difficult to replace. Her work on early childhood development, mental health awareness, and addiction support has been innovative and effective. The prospect of losing her contributions to these causes is devastating beyond the personal tragedy. There has also been reflection on how Catherine's handling of her illness has changed public conversation about cancer. By being open about her diagnosis, by showing herself undergoing treatment, by refusing to hide her struggles, Catherine has helped reduce stigma and encouraged others to seek help. Her bravery has had measurable impact on cancer awareness and early detection efforts. International reaction has been equally strong. Leaders from around the world have sent messages of support to William and Catherine. The American President, the Canadian Prime Minister, leaders across Europe and the Commonwealth, all have expressed their hope for Catherine's recovery. This global response demonstrates how far Catherine's influence has reached during her time as Princess of Wales. The fashion industry, which has long been influenced by Catherine's style choices, has responded with unusual unity. Designers whose clothes Catherine has worn have dedicated their latest collections to her, donating proceeds to cancer research. Fashion magazines have published tribute issues celebrating Catherine's impact and expressing hope for her recovery. Catherine's charitable work has taken on new significance in light of her illness. Organizations she has supported have seen dramatic increases in donations as people look for ways to honor her while she fights for her life. The charities focused on cancer research and support have been particularly blessed by this surge in public generosity. But beneath the public displays of support, there is genuine grief and fear. People are confronting the possibility that Catherine might die, that William might lose his wife, that 3 children might grow up without their mother. These are not abstract considerations but real possibilities that have shaken even those who normally pay little attention to the royal family. The palace has struggled to manage public expectations and communication. They want to be honest about the severity of Catherine's condition without causing panic or invading her privacy. They want to thank the public for their support without encouraging intrusive behavior. They want to maintain hope without making promises they cannot keep. King Charles has been largely silent throughout this crisis, dealing with his own marital separation while his daughter-in-law fights for her life. But those close to him describe Charles as deeply affected by Catherine's illness. Whatever complications exist in the family relationships, Charles recognizes Catherine's value both personally and to the institution. The Queen Consort, Camilla, despite her estrangement from Charles, has privately reached out to William with messages of support. The relationship between Camilla and Catherine has always been complicated, marked by the shadow of Diana and differing approaches to royal life. But facing Catherine's mortality has put those tensions in perspective. As December 10th unfolds, Britain finds itself in a state of collective anxiety, waiting for news, hoping for positive updates, dreading the alternative. Catherine has become more than just a royal figure. She represents hope, resilience, and the possibility that even in the face of terrible illness, life and love can prevail. Hope in the darkest hour. Despite the severity of Catherine's condition and the justified fear permeating every aspect of this crisis, there are reasons for hope. Medical science has advanced dramatically in recent years. Cancer treatments that did not exist a decade ago are now available. Catherine has access to the world's leading oncologists and cutting-edge therapies. Her medical team, while honest about the challenges ahead, has emphasized that Catherine's youth, overall health, and determination give her significant advantages. She responded well to initial treatments, suggesting her body is capable of fighting this disease. The fact that the cancer was detected relatively early in its return provides more options for intervention. Catherine herself has shown remarkable mental strength throughout this ordeal. She has approached her illness with the same determination and grace she brings to her royal duties. She researches her condition, asks informed questions, and actively participates in decisions about her treatment. This engaged approach is associated with better outcomes. William, despite his emotional struggle, has ensured Catherine has access to every possible resource. He has consulted with specialists around the world, investigated experimental treatments, and made certain that no stone is left unturned in the fight for Catherine's survival. His determination to save his wife has mobilized resources and expertise that might otherwise have taken longer to access. The children, though frightened and struggling, have also become sources of strength for Catherine. She has told friends that thoughts of George, Charlotte, and Louis are what keep her fighting when treatment becomes unbearable. She is determined to see them grow up, to be present for their milestones, to fulfill her role as their mother. Medical experts following Catherine's case have pointed to several factors that improve her prognosis. The type of cancer she has, while aggressive, is also responsive to modern treatments. Clinical trials are ongoing for new therapies that might prove effective. And Catherine's generally healthy lifestyle provides a strong foundation for recovery. There have been small positive signs even in the darkest moments, days when Catherine's pain is more manageable. Test results that show treatments are having some effect. Moments of laughter and connection that remind everyone why this fight is worth it. These glimmers of hope sustain William and the entire family through the difficult times. The global outpouring of support has also provided unexpected comfort. Catherine has received letters from cancer survivors around the world, sharing their stories and offering encouragement. These connections remind her that she is not alone, that others have walked this path and emerged on the other side. William has found strength in unexpected places. Conversations with other fathers who have watched their partners face serious illness, messages from strangers sharing their own experiences with loss and recovery, the steady presence of Catherine's family, who refuse to give up hope even in the darkest moments. The palace has begun making cautious statements about Catherine's determination to beat this disease. While careful not to make unrealistic promises, they emphasize her fighting spirit and the excellence of her medical care. These statements are designed to provide hope without creating false expectations. As treatments continue and December progresses toward Christmas, the Wales family focuses on making memories and cherishing every day together. They know the road ahead will be difficult, that there will be setbacks and challenges, but they also know that giving up is not an option. Catherine's story is not over. The final chapter has not been written, and in the face of overwhelming darkness, her family, her nation, and millions around the world choose to believe in the possibility of light. William may be in tears, but he is also in the fight, and as long as Catherine continues to battle, so will everyone who loves her. Catherine's medical crisis has brought the royal family and the nation to its knees. William's tears reflect a pain that transcends titles and crowns, the universal fear of losing someone irreplaceable. But in this darkness there is also fierce determination. Catherine fights for her life while the world watches, hopes, and prays that love will prove stronger than disease.